Welcome to another episode of the Live Better podcast, proudly presented by Centric Federal Credit Union. I'm your host and Centric Senior Vice President of Marketing, Kelly Green, and today we're delving into a topic that just about everyone can relate to, debt relief. In today's episode, we'll discuss debt relief solutions that seem to be the answer to debt woes. And just so you know, not everything we hear advertised is true and easy and even affordable way to really manage your debt. So, whether you've been a loyal listener or you're joining us for the first time, tune in as we break down complex economic concepts into easy to understand advice. We want you to be empowered to make informed decisions and really stay ahead of today's curve. We don't want you to let anything related to debt woes really derail any dreams that you may have. So let's tackle it together. So, I want to welcome all of our listeners to another episode of the Live Better podcast. Today, we are joined by my sweet friend and solutions recovery consultant here at Centric, Miss Linette Kovak.
Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning. I'm so glad you're able to join us today.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes. So I know we worked together for, how many years now?
5
years. So in the solutions department at Centric, do you want to maybe tell our listeners a little bit about what is the solutions department and what do you do on day in and day out?
Okay. Well, at Centric, that's what we call our collections department because we're not just about collecting money. We're about trying to help our members find solutions to the debt problems that they're facing.
And there's a lot of them, huh?
It is. You know, it's just the times have been difficult. And people are really struggling. Groceries have gotten so expensive, and like everything is just almost doubled in price at least. So their budget that was working a couple of years ago, is falling short now.
That's right. Well, we've had some conversations with a lot of members, and I know that you do this day in and day out. But they keep saying they've got a little more month left than that paycheck.
Yes.
And what do they do just to make ends meet?
Yes. Well, at Centric, you can contact the solutions department because we have some options available for our members. We can do some interest reductions. We can reduce payments. We have a lot of different options available to help get that budget down a little bit.
Yes. The thing is, I always want our listeners to remember is even if you're a member or not a member, talk with us. Let's see what we might be able to do. Because just because you've got this loan and you've agreed to make this one monthly installment, if that gets to be a little too heavy for you, there's always a refinance option to discuss. Even if maybe you can't refinance it at that time, you can still maybe think about switching up your payment a little bit. You can consolidate that down, whether you're getting paid weekly or bi-weekly. There's ways in which you can modify that payment.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know that's available to them.
No, there are a lot of different options available. So always just reach out and ask the question, can you help me?
That's right. Because we'll be honest and tell you, listen, if we're in a situation where there may not be something that we can do, you may have to just kind of ride it out, weather the storm. Similar to I was having a conversation with a sweet friend of mine. She's looking to purchase a vehicle. And one of the things is that she's bought her vehicle when the price was inflated. Well, now the prices are going down a little bit. So, she's kind of upside down just over $10,000.
Oh.
Well, that's a big deal.
That's a lot.
And so she's just thinking about, I said it would be a better idea for you maybe to think about, let's pay this down a little bit.
Right.
And see what you can do.
Well, and the interest rates are a little higher too.
That's right.
So sometimes it's better to stay in where you are.
That's right.
And do like you said, pay it down and get that deficiency balance kind of under control a little bit.
That's right. Because you have to think about what's your motivation, right? So if you're, like you've mentioned, talking about inflation being such an issue, and then thinking, man, I really want that new car smell. Well, do you like this car? Does it get you to point A to B? Look that great? But considering the circumstances and the economy, it may be a better idea just to kind of ride out that storm.
Well, I kind of went through that myself a little bit.
Did you?
I did because, life changes, and I really wanted to buy a pickup truck.
Oh, yeah.
And, I like to be able to take care of myself and pick up whatever I need to,
That's right.
And so I was looking at them and I was considerate, and then I realized now is not the time.
And like you've told our listeners to lean on us to help you, Miss Linette, I'd like for you to lean on us. If you need to borrow a pickup truck, I think I could find somebody to help you out. So
that's good to know, Kelly.
Hey, listen, when you bank here at Centric and work here at Centric, we try to find ways in which we can really work together.
Yeah.
Because we are genuinely a family, and we're here to look out for one another.
We really are.
So something I know is near and dear to your heart, and in fact, it was an idea for you to bring this to our listeners, and I love this idea. But talking through debt relief and the debt consolidation programs that are out there.
Right.
I know that you have heavy thoughts and opinions about this as you've walked through this with members and friends.
I do. I have members and friends both that thought that was going to be a good answer for them. And all of them, it's made it worse. It's really made the situation worse. Those companies are there to make money. I mean, that's what they're in business for. So they're offering solutions where they can make money, and they may not actually help you, get control of that financial situation.
That's right.
A lot of times the fees, it's up to 25% of the total debt in fees that they charge. So if you owe $10,000 and you add 25% to that, you've just added a large amount to the debt you actually owe. And they collect that up. A lot of times they collect money up front. They hold it in an account. They've told you not to contact your creditors. So they may be 6 months to a year sometimes before they reach out to your creditors to even start paying them. And so your credit score is going down because you're not making your payments. And that's 35% of your credit score is your payment history.
Gosh.
So it really has a big impact, on your credit score when you start working with those. So a lot of times you end up with a lower score and more debt than you did when you started.
It ends up hurting you really in the actual present.
Yes.
But more so when you look at it too in the future, it could be really damaging to you.
Oh.
You've said a few things I want to make sure that we go back over because it is so critical for our listeners to understand. So when our members or any listener that might be considering reaching out to debt consolidation, they really need to be aware of the overall cost.
Yes.
So when they're talking with these different solutions, folks, if you will, but this debt consolidation or debt relief programs, when they're speaking to these folks, they tee it up so that you think, wow, you're going to go handle it. I just pay you a little something and move on.
Right.
When in essence, that's not necessarily the case. In the big picture, yes. However, they don't go through and discuss with you what is really happening. And as you mentioned, you were just talking about the percentage of timely payments and how that really impacts your credit score. With a delayed payment of 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, that adds up, and the implications on your credit score.
Well,
immense.
And not only that, all lenders have criteria for charging off loans. So when the payment has been missed for an extended period of time, then that debt is actually charged off. That's more has more impact on your credit score. And then, there's legal collections options available too. So you could end up with a judgment against your property, because of working with those companies and not communicating with your creditors.
Right. Your hands are tied, really. You don't have, if you're working with the debt relief or debt consolidation companies, you're at the mercy of their timeline.
Yes.
And you have no idea, really and truly, when they're going to make those payments or when they will even begin conversations with your creditors.
That's correct. I've received the powers of attorney 6 to 8 months after they were signed for them to start working with the company. So at that point in time, the damage to your credit score, the late fees that have been charged, the interest that hasn't been paid, it's just increasing, and it's just becoming more and more.
Wow. And one of the things too, I really want to hit home with that you made a comment about early on was talking about they ask for those funds up front, and so that if you're ever in a situation where you think, wow, They've not had communication with my creditors. They've not been talking to them. Maybe the creditor has started to contact the member to say, hey, we've recognized there hasn't been any payment for a period of time. And you as the member are under the impression that, well, this debt solutions company is taking care of that. If you're as a member, you're in the midst of this, if you decide this isn't really what I thought it was going to be, you're limited on opportunities or really any options that you have to back out of that.
Right, because any funds they've collected oftentimes are not returned, even if they haven't dispersed them out.
Yeah,
that's kept, and you don't see that in the fine print of the documents. You're not aware of that. It's there, and so I had a friend that lost $8,000.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, yes. So it really is not the best solution.
No. And the best thing to think about, and just to kind of go back through, I have loved this conversation with you, Ms. Linette. I mean, this is something that people are really faced with just as our dollar is kind of tightening up. Our budget is squeezed to the nth degree. Right. We're getting ready, and just different things that come up, whether it be you're preparing for the holidays, back to school, birthday, whatever that might be,
right.
And people think I need quick cash or gosh, this debt is mounting. What do I do?
Right.
The best thing to think about, is really stay in communication with your creditors. Always maintain that communication with them.
It's critical.
Yeah.
Your debtor, your creditors, they have so many options available. And it's going to vary depending on who your loan is with. But I know at Centric, we have so many options available. We can even do a debt consolidation loan, which actually may be able to put all into one loan, some credit card and unsecured debt that you have to get the payment reduced so that you're not having as much monthly go out.
That's right.
You might be able to actually have a lower interest rate than what you had on your credit cards. So it's very important so that you know what's going on with your monthly payments, so that you know what's happening with every one of your creditors, so that you're aware of what the status is of your loan with them.
And the thing is that we have so many solutions, but we have every member, and every member's situation is very different, and not everyone will qualify for every opportunity that we have. However, do not let that stop you from giving us a call and having a conversation, because that one call can really open up a plethora of different ideas. Just like we talked about earlier, I have a friend of mine wanting to buy a car. It's not the right time for her financially.
Right.
And so you just have to have a conversation and be open-minded, and don't be afraid of, hearing people say, well, maybe not right now.
Yeah.
This is not necessarily what we can do.
Yeah.
But here's what we could do in the future if X, Y, Z.
Yes.
And so, I want our listeners to really lean into, and think, gosh, I may not qualify. Why would I even call? That's what we're here for. That's what we do. We want to be able to talk with our members and discuss different opportunities, because we do know that every situation is a little different.
Right.
And never stop that conversation. Let's just keep it going. And even if you got the slightest, question about a loan or any sort of payment, talk with us about that before you sign on with debt solutions or any kind of debt recovery.
Yes.
Let's discuss that. Let's really talk through what are things that are going to happen. And it's just been interesting as I've talked and interviewed different people that work here and that really look at different loans and creating opportunities for folks. We try to make it work for our members.
Yes.
And we have to be bold enough a lot of times and say what you're trying to do or what you're trying to purchase is a little outside the bounds.
Yes.
And I think for the sake of the member, we want to do what's right for them.
Right. We want to guide them.
Yes.
We don't want to just lend them money.
That's right.
We want to guide them into what's going to make their life better.
Yes, absolutely.
And I know you were talking about not everyone qualifying, but there is one thing Centric offers that everybody qualifies for, and that's our free credit counseling.
Absolutely.
We have over 60 certified credit counselors at Centric. So everybody, we can help you set up a budget. We can look at your credit report.
Absolutely.
We can offer a lot of things to help you rebuild your credit So everybody qualifies for that.
And the only thing it costs you is a little bit of time.
That's it.
Yeah. And so when you're visiting with our credit counselors, that's something you can do in person, over the phone, or even via Zoom, a virtual conversation. And so through that, just for our listeners to understand, what does a financial counseling session look like? You get a copy of your budget. We can work that up for you. Comprehensive budget. You'll see each and every item. As long as you provide that information to us, we can put that down on an Excel sheet for you. You can manage that whichever platform you want to manage that on. And then in addition to that, you get a free copy of your credit report. And everybody is due a single copy of their credit report on an annual basis. So I highly advise, just even if you do that once a year, just to make sure everything that you're paying is reported correctly. Even so, take a look at the trade lines. Is there anything that's been opened that you're not aware of? And that's just for basic, identity theft and security precautions too.
Right.
So, well, Miss Linette, this really wraps up our conversation today. And I just thank you so much for being here with us.
Well, I've enjoyed it, Kelly.
Yeah.
I really have a passion to help our members. And this was a way, something I saw that they were really struggling with.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad to have the opportunity to get the information out there so people can make better decisions.
Thank you for being so proactive and bringing this topic to the surface, because if you don't see it or experience it day in and day out, it's almost very foreign. And I just appreciate you bringing this up.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, this is great. Well, so that brings us to the end of this episode of your Live Better podcast. And we hope you found today's conversation about debt relief solutions to be insightful. In the world of personal finance, knowledge is truly your greatest asset, and Centric remains your steadfast partner in that journey. If this episode resonated with you, we kindly ask you to show your support. Please hit the subscribe button, share this episode with your friends and family, and take a moment to leave us a review. Your input is invaluable in shaping the content that addresses your financial interests and needs. And of course, let's stay connected on social media. You can find us on Facebook at Centric FCU and on all other platforms under My Centric. Stay in the loop regarding the latest financial insights and resources tailored to your unique financial aspirations. Until our next episode, always remember, Centric is by your side as you navigate your financial journey. Thank you so much for tuning in today to the Live Better podcast.